These are the people, they don't want to accept the fact that we are not as powerful as they want to believe that we are. We do not have as much control over things that happen around us as they would like to believe.
Roy Innes in 2008 pointed out that 85% of our energy was from fossil fuel, and he pointed out that it would be impossible to overnight eliminate fossil fuel. It would have to be a very gradual process. So now how many years later, I guess 14 years later, according to Department of Energy statistics, 80% of our fuel is now provided by fossil fuels. So there's been an increase in wind and solar and other things. Interestingly, not an increase in atomic energy, which also doesn't pollute, which highlights how crazy it is for us to not develop that type of energy. But in drawing all this together, today, the United States and the world is facing an economic downturn at least in part because of the drastic environmental policies that our nation is instituting. And frankly, we are a little behind Europe, who had started some of these drastic climate change measures before us. But interestingly, many European nations are regretting their efforts because they don't believe that they are as bad as was predicted, and they've caused terrible damage. And so the United States was not as fast as some of them to get on board, but now more and more people are opposed to some of these draconian measures.
Paul, I just want to bring up one other point. It just hit me. I'd forgot all about this, but I want people to think about this. If climate change is this important, I'm going to ask people, then I'm going to give them my answer. What is the cleanest source of energy we have today? What is the?
Well, you told me hydrogen, water and hydrogen.
Well, the hydrogen, but no, I'm going to tell you, it's something else too, is nuclear energy. We are the grandfather of nuclear energy, if you will, as a country. We have fewer nuclear energy plants than almost other industrialized nations that have them. Switzerland has more than we do. France has more. You can see them when you go over to Switzerland. I've seen them. You can see them within view of the towns. 3 Mile Island, they had an iodine leak. Nobody died from that. I can show you all the people that have died in coal-fired power plants, just because anytime you got heavy materials, people die in it. But because of irrational fears, we will not use nuclear energy. I know what happened over in Chernobyl. I was very fascinated. I got my grandsons interested in that because it was basically burning to the center of the earth. I didn't know. Do you know what the temperatures can reach in the middle of a nuclear reactor?
No.
100 million degrees. I mean, the temperatures are amazing. It was burning. But here's what's interesting about Chernobyl. Nobody's gone back in, but they've been watching it with remote cameras. The wildlife is back in, and they seem to be doing okay. It's amazing because nuclear energy, like the bomb, which we did on Hiroshima, and when you blow something up like that, it dissipates quickly. It's when it's in the form where it just escapes unused, that's when it can be 20,000 years of gamma ray damage.
Well, we're going to bring this discussion to a conclusion. I just want the Biden administration and their policies to recognize that they are in large part responsible for the current economic problems we're having. There's not enough discussion of them, and they certainly contributed. And it's not based on science. It's based on speculation. It's based on the recommendations of the IPCC, UN, which has been supporting the climate change agenda for years, but they've manipulated the science and are unreliable. And it's time for us to recognize that this is a hoax. It's time to recognize that we need to change course. It's time for us to have a debate about the science so people recognize it has not been proven that fossil fuel use is causing catastrophic climate change.
If I can just say one other thing,
Yeah.
Paul, if I'll say it, I'll just say his first name. A very wise man. When I first started working, his name was Jack. He was a senior official in the government. He and another gentleman named Rex told me something I've never forgotten. It says, they told me when I was an intern, it's like, Rodney, when something doesn't make sense, just follow the money and it will get clear very quickly. And I will tell you, with this climate change, you start following the money, you will, for us little guys out there, follow the money. Because if it was based on carbon-based fuels and all, I can tell you, I can't speak for people, the listeners, but you come to where a town just outside where I live, there's so many businesses closed up. I could tell you the carbon footprint is a lot less now because these businesses are no longer in business. They're not using anything.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I cover in the book, The Climate Change Hoax Argument, is how the scientific community has been compromised by the money. Because you can get money if your proposed scientific project will advance the climate change agenda. There's money for that.
Yeah.
And this has tainted our science. Well, that brings our discussion to a conclusion today. We hope you enjoyed it. Just remember, the liberties we enjoy in America can be maintained only by its citizens being moral and informed participants in the democratic processes. Closing argument will help us to do this. Until we meet again, this is Paul Smith. See you next time. Bye-bye.